Your emotions don't have to control your life. Have you ever felt drained because of someone else's words, or a small problem that suddenly feels huge? Have you noticed how fear, anger, or stress can hijack your decisions before you even realize it? This video is about taking back that control. Emotional detachment isn't about shutting down your feelings. It's about noticing what you feel, understanding it, and choosing how to respond. Imagine handling tough conversations without panic, setbacks without frustration, and challenges without losing focus. Imagine being fully present in your life while staying calm and clear in every situation. In this video you will learn simple, practical steps to stop old patterns from controlling you, to build self-trust, and to act intentionally every day. You'll discover how to respond instead of react, save your energy, and live with confidence and purpose. By the end, your mind will stop running on autopilot, and you'll finally feel like the one guiding your life, not your emotions. This is the way to real freedom and inner strength. Chapter 1. Recognize emotional hooks and stop feeding them daily. Every day people are pulled in 100 different directions by their emotions. It starts with small things that may seem insignificant at first. A message that irritates you, a comment that seems critical, a situation that feels unfair. These are emotional hooks. They grab attention, trigger reactions, and slowly drain your energy if they are not recognized. Most people do not even notice these hooks because they are subtle. A glance from someone, a tone of voice, a delayed response, a memory that surfaces without warning. These moments quietly feed emotional patterns that control behavior, steal focus, and create stress. Recognizing these hooks is the first step toward freedom. An emotional hook is anything that triggers a reaction inside you without you consciously choosing it. It could be criticism that stirs anger. It could be praise that builds dependency. It could be fear, jealousy, frustration, or even excitement that overtakes reason. The problem is not the hook itself. The problem is giving it power by reacting automatically. Every time a person responds without thinking, the hook becomes stronger. Every time energy is spent feeding a reaction, it builds a habit. Habits shape life quietly but profoundly. The first requirement in recognizing emotional hooks is awareness. Awareness is noticing when your emotions spike in response to something external. The moment your body tightens, your stomach knots, your chest feels heavy, your hands clench, your mind races, these are signals that a hook has been triggered. Awareness means observing these signals without immediately reacting. Most people jump into words or actions without noticing the physical and mental cues. That is how energy is drained. That is how emotional hooks gain control. Once awareness is present, the next step is naming the hook. Give it a label. Identify what is happening inside you. Anger, frustration, anxiety, envy. Recognition removes mystery. Mystery strengthens emotion. Clear recognition gives power to the mind. When you can identify what you are feeling, you stop letting it run unconsciously. You start taking control over the response, rather than being carried away by instinct. Observing an emotional hook also involves noticing the story your mind is telling about it. Most hooks gain power because of the stories built around them. You tell yourself someone is disrespecting you, that you are being treated unfairly, that a situation is hopeless, or that someone does not value you. These narratives increase the emotional charge and often create anger, fear, or anxiety that would not exist if the story were examined calmly. Recognition of the narrative is as important as recognizing the feeling itself. Every hook presents a choice. Most people react automatically, speaking harshly, making impulsive decisions, or withdrawing in fear. The alternative is to pause. Pausing does not mean doing nothing. Pausing means creating space between the trigger and your response. It is in this space that power and clarity reside. Without pause, emotional hooks dictate behavior. With pause, the person dictates their own behavior. People are often surprised by the simplicity and effectiveness of this practice. You do not have to change the external situation. You do not have to control other people. You do not have to prove anything. All you have to do is notice the trigger, recognize the feeling, identify the story, and pause to make a conscious choice. That is enough to start breaking the hold of emotional hooks. Feeding emotional hooks requires energy that is spent on reacting, arguing, defending, resenting, or worrying, is energy that cannot be used for learning, creating, building, or improving. Every reaction gives the hook more power. Every pause diminishes it. When someone criticizes you and you react defensively, the hook is fed. When someone praises you and you become dependent on approval, the hook is fed. When a situation is frustrating and you stew in resentment, the hook is fed. Recognizing hooks allows you to stop this cycle and redirect your energy to what matters. Training the mind to notice hooks takes daily practice. Life will continue to present triggers. They will not disappear because you are aware, but awareness allows control. Start by observing small triggers throughout the day. Notice how your body responds. Notice how your thoughts respond. Notice the urge to react. Practice pausing in those moments. Over time, recognition becomes automatic. The mind begins to catch hooks earlier. Energy is preserved. Reactions become intentional instead of habitual. Understanding emotional hooks also requires understanding their origin. Many hooks are tied to past experiences, unmet needs, or internal fears. Criticism may sting because it echoes childhood experiences. Rejection may feel unbearable because of past abandonment. Anxiety may spike because of previous uncertainty or loss. These connections do not make the emotion weaker or stronger, but they explain why the reaction is so immediate. Recognizing these patterns reduces their unconscious control. It is also important to notice that emotional hooks are not all negative. Positive feelings can also become hooks if they create dependence or attachment. Praise, recognition, or attention can lead to seeking validation instead of making decisions from values. Excitement or joy can lead to impulsive behavior if it is not balanced with awareness. Hooks exist wherever energy is given, without intention. The principle remains the same. Recognize them and stop feeding them. Every time an emotional hook appears, there is an opportunity to strengthen the mind. The hook is not the enemy. The enemy is unconscious response. When a person consistently recognizes hooks and pauses, a habit of conscious response forms. That habit transforms life gradually. Challenges that once caused stress now become manageable. Conversations that once escalated now remain calm. Decisions that once caused regret now follow values and logic. Recognition of emotional hooks also improves relationships. When reactions are controlled, interactions become more thoughtful and measured. Listening improves. Understanding grows. Conflicts decrease. People naturally respond better to someone who is steady and deliberate instead of reactive. Emotional hooks lose power, not only internally, but in the way others perceive and interact with you. The process of recognizing emotional hooks requires honesty. You must be willing to admit when a hook has been triggered. You must be willing to look at the truth of your feelings, even when uncomfortable. You must resist the urge to blame others or external circumstance. The power lies in owning your internal state and recognizing where energy is being misdirected. Daily practice builds momentum. Every morning and evening, reflect on moments when hooks appeared. Note what triggered the reaction, how the body responded, and what thoughts or stories were present. This reflection strengthens awareness and trains the mind to anticipate similar hooks in the future. With consistent attention, the ability to catch a hook before it controls action becomes natural. Stopping feeding emotional hooks is not about ignoring reality. It is about responding effectively to reality. A hook may appear because someone insults you, but feeding it by reacting angrily only escalates the situation. By recognizing the hook and pausing, the same situation can be addressed calmly, with clarity and control, preserving dignity and effectiveness. Energy management is central to this practice. Emotional hooks drain energy silently if unchecked. Reactions create cycles of tension, resentment, or obsession. Every hook that is noticed and not fed preserves mental and physical resources. Those resources can then be redirected to goals, relationships, health, and personal growth. Recognizing emotional hooks also requires self-compassion. It is natural to react. Awareness grows over time. Each moment of recognition is progress. Each pause is a victory. The mind is being retrained. Emotional hooks will continue to appear, but they will be weaker each time they are observed without feeding. In life, triggers will always exist. Traffic delays, unkind comments, workplace pressures, family arguments, social expectations, financial stress. These are constant. Emotional hooks are a part of being human. The difference between those who succeed and those who struggle lies in the ability to recognize hooks and refuse to feed them. Mastery over this skill translates to mastery over personal energy, choices, and ultimately life itself. Every day presents countless hooks. Each requires observation, naming, and pause. Each is an opportunity to exercise self-control and strengthen the mind. Over months and years, consistent practice produces remarkable transformation. Decisions are clearer, focus is sharper, peace becomes consistent, reactions are intentional, life begins to feel manageable and purposeful. Recognition of emotional hooks is not a theoretical exercise. It is applied psychology. It is strategic self-management. It is the foundation for personal growth, resilience, and emotional stability. Those who practice it daily gain confidence in themselves, authority over their choices, and freedom from unnecessary suffering. Understanding emotional hooks also provides insight into human behavior. Observing others, without feeding your own reactions, allows clearer perception. It becomes easier to understand motives, anticipate outcomes, and communicate effectively. Emotional hooks stop clouding judgment. Objectivity increases, relationships improve, professional performance benefits, decisions are informed by reality rather than reaction. The practice is simple but requires commitment. Observe, name, pause, reflect, decide, repeat. There are no shortcuts. Each step reinforces the next. Each day of practice builds cumulative strength. What once seemed impossible, remaining calm under pressure, thinking clearly during conflict, responding with clarity instead of emotion, becomes second nature. Over time, life transforms. Energy that was once drained by reactions is now available for creation, learning, and meaningful action. Emotional freedom allows focus to align with priorities. Awareness prevents impulsive choices. Calm behavior produces respect and influence. Intentional living replaces chaos. Emotional hooks lose their control. The mind becomes the master of itself, not a slave to circumstance. By recognizing emotional hooks and refusing to feed them, a person gains the most powerful tool available: control over the self. That control allows steady progress in all areas of life. Peace, clarity, and confidence grow naturally. Choices become deliberate. Actions are measured. Life, once reactive and exhausting, becomes strategic and purposeful. Emotional hooks are no longer traps. They are signals, reminders, and opportunities to practice mastery. This is the foundation of emotional detachment. Recognize the hook, pause, observe, and feed only the thoughts and actions that serve long-term growth. Every time this is done, power is regained, focus is restored, and the energy is preserved. Over time, mastery is achieved. Emotional hooks stop controlling life. Calm, deliberate action replaces reactive chaos. Energy is invested wisely. Life aligns with intention. Chapter 2. Accept feelings fully then. Choose your next move. Emotions arrive in a person's life whether they are ready for them or not. They show up suddenly, sometimes quietly and sometimes with intensity, and they bring clarity about what matters, what is broken, and what is alive inside. Most people are taught to resist these emotions, to hide them or to act immediately without pause. That approach leads to confusion, regret, and unnecessary suffering. Learning to accept feelings fully before deciding the next step is the cornerstone of emotional mastery. It is not about pretending the emotion is not there or forcing it to go away. It is about noticing it, understanding it, and responding intentionally. The first part of this process is acknowledgement. Feelings exist for a reason, and they contain information about your inner world and your needs. Anger can indicate that a boundary has been crossed. Fear can indicate uncertainty or risk. Sadness can indicate loss or unmet expectations. Happiness can indicate alignment with values or satisfaction. Accepting these feelings fully means giving them recognition without judgment. It is allowing yourself to experience them as they are, not as you think they should be. Acceptance does not weaken you. It strengthens you by removing the internal conflict that arises from denying what is present. Many people rush to act because they feel uncomfortable with their own emotions. They talk, they text, they make decisions, they react defensively or they lash out. Acting while feeling overwhelmed often leads to choices that are short-sighted and damaging. Emotional detachment teaches that feelings can be experienced completely without requiring immediate action. It is possible to be fully aware of what is happening inside and still maintain composure. That awareness is the first step toward choosing a response that is aligned with your long-term goals and values. The body plays a significant role in how feelings are experienced. A sudden rush of anger can cause tension in the shoulders, tightness in the chest, or a clenching of the jaw. Anxiety may create a knot in the stomach or a quickened heartbeat. Joy might cause a release of tension or a feeling of lightness. Paying attention to these physical sensations is part of accepting feelings fully. The body often communicates what the mind has not yet recognized, and noticing these sensations provides valuable insight. Awareness of bodily signals creates space for thoughtful response. Acceptance also means recognizing that feelings are temporary. They rise, peak, and eventually pass. Acting as if a strong emotion is permanent often leads to overreaction. Understanding that all feelings are fleeting allows a person to sit with them without panic or compulsion. Observing the rise and fall of emotion trains the mind to respond with patience. Patience is not passive. It is a deliberate choice to avoid impulsive action while allowing clarity to emerge. Another critical part of this process is separating feelings from identity. Feeling angry does not make a person an angry person. Feeling anxious does not make a person weak. Feeling sad does not define one's character. Emotions are experiences, not labels. Accepting feelings fully requires seeing them as temporary states rather than permanent traits. This separation provides freedom and prevents destructive patterns that occur when people act as if they are being defined by their emotions. Choosing the next move comes after full acceptance. Once a feeling is recognized and acknowledged, a person gains access to choice. This is where personal power resides. You can feel fear and still act with courage. You can feel sadness and still move forward with determination. You can feel frustration and still communicate calmly and constructively. Accepting feelings first ensures that actions are deliberate rather than reactive, that decisions are guided by reason and values, not impulses or temporary discomfort. The mind often presents stories alongside emotion. When a person feels slighted, the mind may create a narrative of disrespect or unfairness. When anxiety arises, the mind may imagine worst-case scenarios. Recognizing these stories and separating them from reality is essential. Feelings are valid, but the interpretations attached to them are often distorted. Awareness of these stories allows the mind to evaluate them objectively and choose responses based on truth rather than assumption. Daily practice is necessary to develop this skill. Emotional mastery is built one moment at a time. Small, consistent actions create lasting change. Each day presents opportunities to accept what is felt and to pause before responding. Perhaps someone says something irritating, and the first instinct is to argue. The practice is to notice the irritation fully, acknowledge the feeling of annoyance, and then decide how to respond in a way that aligns with values and desired outcomes. Over time, these pauses accumulate, and the ability to respond rather than react becomes second nature. Acceptance without judgment is central to this practice. People often criticize themselves for feeling a certain way. They say, "I should not be angry," or "I should not feel fear." This self-criticism adds a layer of conflict and stress. Emotional detachment is about removing that judgment. Every feeling that arises deserves attention, not condemnation. Accepting emotions without self-criticism reduces tension, clarifies thinking, and allows better choices to be made. It is also important to allow feelings to be expressed safely when appropriate. Holding emotions in can create pressure that leaks out as stress, irritability, or exhaustion. Choosing to release emotions in a controlled and intentional way, through conversation with a trusted person, through reflection, or through physical activity, completes the process of acceptance. Controlled expression ensures that energy is used constructively rather than destructively. Fear is one of the most common emotions that people struggle to accept. Fear triggers avoidance, hesitation, and indecision. Accepting fear does not mean giving in to it. It means noticing it fully, understanding what it is communicating, and deciding on an action that is guided by awareness rather than impulse. Fear contains valuable information, and ignoring it can lead to mistakes, while accepting it creates opportunity. Anger is another powerful emotion that demands full recognition. When anger appears, the body and mind react quickly. The first impulse is often to defend, attack, or react. Accepting anger fully involves noticing the surge of energy, the tightness in the body, and the thoughts racing through the mind. Allowing the feeling to exist without immediate action creates a window of choice. In that window, a response can be chosen that addresses the cause constructively rather than escalating the problem. Sadness and disappointment also require full acceptance. These emotions often signal loss, unmet expectations, or personal reflection. Instead of resisting these feelings or distracting oneself, allowing them to be felt in full clarity provides insight into values, priorities, and areas for growth. Acceptance of sadness leads to understanding and eventual healing, which creates stronger emotional resilience. Joy and excitement are also emotions that benefit from awareness. While generally positive, they can lead to impulsive action if unchecked. Accepting these feelings fully involves noticing the energy they bring, understanding the motivation behind them, and choosing actions that maintain balance and alignment with long-term goals. This ensures that positive emotions enhance rather than disrupt life. The process of accepting feelings and then choosing actions strengthens self-trust. Each time a person pauses, observes, and chooses consciously, confidence in their own judgment grows. Self-trust is essential because life constantly presents challenges that demand clear thinking and deliberate action. Emotional mastery creates a foundation for making decisions that are aligned with personal values and life objectives. Practice also teaches patience. Emotions do not disappear instantly. Intense feelings can take time to settle. Acceptance allows this process to occur naturally. Rushing to act or suppress a feeling can lead to mistakes, but sitting with the emotion until clarity returns supports wiser decisions. Patience in emotional response is as valuable as patience in pursuing any long-term goal. Reflection enhances the practice. Reviewing the day's emotional experiences, noticing which moments triggered strong reactions, and evaluating how they were handled, provides learning opportunity. Over time, patterns emerge. Recognizing recurring emotional triggers allows preparation and strategy in future situations, further increasing emotional control. Acceptance combined with choice improves relationships. When a person responds intentionally rather than reacting impulsively, communication becomes clearer, conflicts are handled with calm and fairness. Listening improves and empathy becomes more effective because it is guided by awareness rather than emotion. Relationships benefit when people practice thoughtful responses instead of reactive behavior. This practice also protects mental and physical health. Suppressing feelings creates tension, stress, and fatigue. Acting impulsively often creates regret, guilt, or shame. Accepting feelings fully and responding deliberately reduces unnecessary stress, preserves energy, and maintains mental clarity. The body and mind both function better when emotional energy is managed consciously. Every emotion presents information about what is important. Accepting feelings fully allows a person to extract this information without being controlled by it. The insights gained can guide better decisions, help prioritize actions, and clarify what truly matters in life. Emotional detachment is not indifference. It is the ability to experience fully while responding with intelligence. Over time, this skill transforms life. Challenges that once felt overwhelming become manageable. Decisions that once caused regret are made thoughtfully. Interactions that once led to conflict are handled calmly. The ability to accept feelings fully and then choose deliberate responses becomes natural. Energy is preserved, focus is strengthened, and personal power increases. Life continues to present emotions constantly. The work of acceptance is never finished. Daily practice is essential. Each day offers countless opportunities to feel deeply, pause, and act intentionally. Each choice made with awareness reinforces the habit, strengthens character, and builds resilience. Over months and years, the cumulative effect is profound. Acceptance of feelings before action also encourages self-compassion. Mistakes will happen. Emotions will rise unexpectedly. When reactions occur before pause, observe them without harsh judgment. Learn and return to deliberate practice. Progress is measured by consistency over time, not perfection in a single moment. Ultimately, accepting feelings fully and then choosing the next move is about freedom. Freedom from impulsive reactions, from unnecessary stress, from energy wasted on destructive patterns. It is about reclaiming control over oneself and one's life. Every pause strengthens mental clarity, every thoughtful response builds character, and every day of consistent practice creates a life guided by intention rather than emotion. This approach changes how a person experiences the world. Challenges no longer dominate thoughts. Relationships are navigated with calm. Decisions align with values. Life becomes more focused, more peaceful, and more purposeful. Emotional energy is invested where it matters most. Accepting feelings fully before acting creates strength that is reliable and internal. It is not dependent on circumstances, other people, or external validation. It is a skill that develops through attention, patience, and repeated practice. Mastery of this skill allows a person to meet any situation with composure, to make thoughtful decisions, and to act consistently with long-term goals. By committing to this practice, every moment becomes an opportunity for growth. Every emotion becomes a teacher. Every pause becomes a tool for conscious living. Over time, the person develops a steady mind, balanced emotions, and the confidence to navigate life effectively. Emotional detachment is not about suppressing humanity. It is about experiencing humanity fully while responding with clarity, wisdom, and power.
Chapter 3. Slow your reactions so emotions lose their grip. Emotions have a way of taking control when a person reacts immediately. A harsh word,
A sudden criticism, an unexpected situation, or even a minor inconvenience can trigger instant responses that are impulsive and often regrettable. Most people are conditioned to react as soon as a feeling rises because it is what they have observed, experienced, or been taught. That automatic reaction may give a temporary release, but it comes at a cost. Energy is lost. Relationships are strained. Reputation can be damaged. Decisions are made without full awareness. Slowing reactions is the key to gaining control over emotions and reducing their power. Slowing reactions begins with awareness of what is happening in the body and mind at the moment of emotional surge. The heart may beat faster, the muscles may tense, the mind may race with thoughts about what is happening or what should be done. These signals are the body's natural alert system, not commands to act. Observing these signs creates a space between stimulus and response. That space is where control is built. The longer a person practices noticing these cues, the easier it becomes to pause naturally before reacting. The pause itself is simple in concept, but challenging in practice. It is not about avoidance or suppression. It is about stepping back mentally while remaining fully present. When a strong emotion arises, taking even a brief moment to breathe, notice the sensation and label the feeling allows the mind to regain clarity. Labeling is crucial. By naming the emotion, anger, frustration, anxiety, fear, the intensity of the feeling is reduced. Naming separates the observer from the reaction. It makes the emotion an object of attention rather than a force that demands action. Automatic reactions are habitual. They are reinforced each time a person responds immediately. Breaking the habit requires deliberate effort. Consistently practicing slowing down interrupts the cycle and trains the nervous system to respond more calmly. Each pause strengthens the ability to act thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Over time, this creates an inner rhythm where the mind remains steady even when the external world is chaotic. One effective way to slow reactions is controlled breathing. When emotions spike, the body instinctively reacts as if under threat. Heart rate increases, muscles tighten, and energy surges. Conscious breathing signals the nervous system that there is no immediate danger, which reduces physiological intensity. A few deep, steady breaths can lower the body's response, making it easier to think clearly before acting. This simple practice alone can prevent unnecessary conflict, mistakes, and regrets. Another key factor is observing thoughts that accompany the emotion. Emotions are often paired with stories that intensify the feeling. Thoughts such as, "They are attacking me," "This is unfair," or "I cannot tolerate this," increase the urgency to react. Slowing reactions involves noticing these stories without believing them automatically. Awareness allows a person to assess whether the thoughts are accurate, necessary, or helpful. Many impulses vanish when the mind observes the thought without immediately acting. Slowing reactions also requires patience. Patience is not waiting passively. It is a deliberate exercise in self-control. Emotions have a natural peak. If action is delayed until the intensity subsides, decisions are less likely to be destructive. Acting in the middle of the storm almost always produces consequences that are regrettable. By waiting for clarity to return, a person ensures that actions are aligned with reason rather than impulse. Every situation that triggers strong emotion becomes a training opportunity. A disagreement with a colleague, an argument with a loved one, or even frustration at a long line can serve as practice. Each moment provides feedback. Each successful pause strengthens confidence and self-mastery. The skill of slowing reactions grows exponentially with repetition. Life is full of opportunities, and each pause is a chance to build control. Slowing reactions is not limited to negative emotions. Excitement, joy, or enthusiasm can also cause impulsive behavior if acted upon immediately. Celebratory decisions, hasty commitments,
or over-enthusiastic responses can be just as damaging as reactions born of anger or fear. Applying the same principle, awareness, pause, observation, and deliberate choice, ensures that positive emotions are channeled constructively. The practice also enhances clarity in communication. When reactions are slowed, words are chosen deliberately rather than spoken out of impulse. Tone is moderated. Messages are conveyed with precision and understanding. Listening improves because attention is not consumed by defensive responses. Relationships benefit immediately as interactions shift from reactive to thoughtful. Understanding the triggers of emotion is essential for slowing reactions effectively. Some triggers are external, like behavior from others or events in the environment. Others are internal, arising from memories, fears, or unmet needs. Recognizing what triggers the strongest responses allows preparation. Anticipation reduces surprise and enhances control. People who understand their triggers can implement pauses and strategies more quickly, reducing the grip of emotion. Emotions are often strongest in unexpected moments. That is why slowing reactions must become a habitual practice. Small repeated opportunities throughout the day, minor irritations, brief disagreements, delayed responses serve as exercises. Consistent practice creates a natural rhythm where pause precedes reaction automatically. The mind becomes trained to observe before acting, reducing impulsive decisions and increasing mental clarity. Energy management is closely tied to slowing reactions. Immediate responses expend energy rapidly, arguments escalate, stress accumulates, tension grows. Pausing before acting conserves energy. This preserved energy can be directed toward problem solving, constructive conversation, or personal growth. Over time, people who slow reactions find they feel less drained and more capable of handling life's challenges. Slowing reactions also develops emotional intelligence. Observing emotions, understanding their origin, and choosing responses deliberately are core components of emotional awareness. People who master this skill are better able to navigate social interactions, manage stress, and handle conflict. Their responses are measured, effective, and consistent, making them reliable in both personal and professional environments. Many people mistake slowing reactions for weakness or avoidance. On the contrary, it is a demonstration of strength. It takes courage to pause in the face of intensity, to remain present with uncomfortable sensations, and to choose wisely rather than instinctively. Immediate reactions may appear strong, but deliberate responses are sustainable, effective, and empowering. True strength lies in control, not impulsiveness. It is natural to experience resistance when learning this skill. The body and mind are accustomed to instant reactions. Pausing may feel uncomfortable, frustrating, or even unnatural at first. That discomfort is part of the growth process. Every moment of pause reinforces new neural pathways and strengthens self-control. Repetition is the key to transforming initial discomfort into habitual skill. Self-reflection after emotional episodes further reinforces the habit. Reviewing how reactions were managed, identifying areas of improvement, and noting progress provides guidance for future situations. Reflection solidifies learning, increases awareness, and enhances confidence in the ability to respond calmly under pressure. The principle applies across all aspects of life. Work-related stress, family disagreements, financial challenges, unexpected setbacks, and even social interactions can trigger strong emotion. In every case, the process remains the same. Notice the feeling, recognize the body's response, identify accompanying thoughts, pause, and then choose a deliberate action. Consistency transforms this process from effortful practice into natural habit. Slowing reactions also cultivates resilience. Life is unpredictable. People will act unfairly. Circumstances will be difficult, emotional intensity will arise. A person who can slow their response does not allow external conditions to dictate internal stability. Over time, this steady approach reduces vulnerability to stress, improves problem solving, and enhances overall well-being. Controlled responses prevent unnecessary conflict. Acting impulsively often escalates situations. Delayed responses allow time for reason, context, and consideration of outcomes. Relationships are maintained, reputations are preserved, consequences are minimized. Thoughtful action is almost always more effective than immediate reaction. Awareness of physical sensations, thoughts, and emotions simultaneously creates a complete picture of the internal state. This holistic observation ensures that responses are informed, balanced, and intentional. Emotional intensity is not suppressed, but it is managed. Energy is preserved, focus is maintained, decisions are guided by understanding rather than impulse. Consistency is essential. The skill of slowing reactions grows through repeated application in varied situations. Each success reinforces the habit. Each challenge strengthens resilience. Each pause reduces the automatic power of emotional intensity. Over time, emotional responses become deliberate and predictable, rather than reactive and chaotic. Slowing reactions also supports long-term decision-making. Short-term emotional responses often lead to choices that conflict with goals, values, or priorities. Pausing allows consideration of the broader context. Consequences are anticipated. Actions align with intentions. The mind becomes a tool for strategy, rather than a slave to impulse. It is important to recognize that slowing reactions does not eliminate emotion. Emotions remain present, fully experienced and informative. The difference is that the person no longer feels compelled to act instantly. Observation replaces compulsion. Awareness replaces instinct. Control replaces chaos. Emotional energy is harnessed rather than wasted. Over time, this practice transforms the experience of life. Situations that once felt overwhelming are approached with calm. Communication is more effective. Conflicts are resolved efficiently. Decisions are considered and strategic. Energy is conserved and directed toward meaningful endeavors. Emotional intensity no longer dominates behavior. By slowing reactions, a person develops clarity, resilience, self-control, and confidence. Life becomes manageable and purposeful. Emotional hooks lose their grip. Energy is redirected toward goals, relationships, and personal growth. The mind becomes the driver of experience, rather than a passenger of impulse. This practice is simple in theory, but transformative in life. Observe, pause, reflect, and choose. Repetition creates mastery. Awareness builds strength. Conscious action replaces reaction. Over months and years, the ability to slow responses redefines a person's approach to life, relationships, and challenge. Emotional intensity becomes manageable. Decisions become deliberate, and personal power grows. Slowing reactions allows a person to meet every situation with wisdom. Challenges no longer provoke chaos. Mistakes are reduced. Opportunities are recognized more clearly. Calmness becomes the default state. Life aligns with values rather than impulses. Emotional control becomes a tool for freedom, clarity, and consistent progress. The impact of slowing reactions is profound. People notice the difference. Respect grows. Trust strengthens. Influence increases. Internal stability becomes reliable. External circumstances may still be unpredictable, but the internal response is consistent, deliberate, and empowered. Life shifts from being controlled by emotion to being directed by conscious choice. Mastery of this skill is earned through practice. Every day offers opportunities, minor irritations, conflicts, delays, and surprises. Each moment is a chance to pause and choose. Each pause diminishes the grip of emotional intensity. With patience, commitment, and awareness, the power of impulsive reactions is replaced by control, clarity, and deliberate action. Slowing reactions does not eliminate humanity, it enhances it. Emotions are fully experienced, understood, and acknowledged. They inform action without dictating it. The mind and body work together to create balanced, intentional responses. Energy is preserved, clarity is maintained, life is navigated with confidence and purpose. Over time, slowing reactions reshapes character. Impulsivity gives way to thoughtfulness. Anxiety and frustration are tempered. Responses are deliberate and aligned with values. Peace becomes consistent. Focus improves. Energy is directed toward meaningful actions. Emotional control becomes a habit that transforms life in every dimension. When emotions lose their immediate grip, the person becomes empowered. Decisions are made wisely. Communication is effective. Relationships improve. Stress decreases. Opportunities are seen more clearly. Life is guided by intention rather than impulse. Emotional mastery grows. Confidence increases. The mind becomes steady, deliberate, and aligned with purpose. Slowing reactions is not a one-time effort. It is a lifelong practice. Each moment, each emotion, and each decision is an opportunity to refine skill. Awareness, pause, observation, and deliberate choice create a foundation for sustained emotional stability. Mastery is built through patience, repetition, and commitment to conscious action.
Chapter 4. Decide what deserves attention and ignore the rest. Every day, life surrounds a person with endless inputs, messages, notifications, conversations, opinions, tasks, expectations, and unexpected events all demand attention. The mind wants to respond to everything. The heart wants to feel everything. Most people spend their lives reacting to the noise around them instead of choosing where to focus. Energy gets divided, attention becomes scattered, and the sense of control diminishes. The ability to decide what deserves attention and ignore the rest is a critical skill for emotional strength, clarity, and personal growth. It is not about avoidance or indifference. It is about understanding priorities, protecting energy, and acting intentionally. The first step is recognizing that not everything deserves a response. Life presents countless triggers every day, many of which are inconsequential or outside personal control. A rude comment, an opinion from someone who does not matter, a situation that does not impact core goals. These can occupy mental space if allowed. Choosing what deserves attention means filtering experiences through values, long-term objectives, and personal priorities. Awareness of what truly matters prevents energy from being wasted on distractions, trivialities, and noise that only fuel stress. Understanding priorities is essential for this process. Each person has limited attention and finite energy. Reacting to every stimulus leads to exhaustion and confusion. Deciding what deserves focus requires clarity about personal values and long-term goals. A person who understands what they want to achieve, who they want to be, and what matters most, can instinctively recognize which issues warrant energy. Everything else is set aside without guilt. The mind becomes sharper, decisions improve, life feels more manageable. Ignoring what does not matter is not passive. It is an active choice to protect energy and attention for what matters. Most people misunderstand ignoring as avoidance. In reality, it is a conscious act of strength. It requires confidence to resist reacting to external pressures, distractions, or emotions that are irrelevant. The ability to ignore what does not serve ensures that actions, focus, and mental resources are aligned with earth. Emotional triggers often appear in subtle form. Someone's tone may seem sharp, a minor inconvenience may frustrate, an opinion may challenge beliefs, a message may provoke anxiety. These triggers only have power if attention is given. The skill is to notice the feeling or reaction without investing unnecessary energy.
This does not mean suppressing awareness. It means observing, acknowledging, and consciously letting go of the unimportant. Recognition without overreaction preserves focus. Every choice of attention creates energy and influence. When attention is directed toward what matters, effort is multiplied and results improve. When attention is scattered, energy is lost and frustration rises. The mind is like a lens. Focusing it intentionally magnifies impact, while diffusing it diminishes outcome. Choosing what deserves attention is therefore a form of personal power. Daily practice is essential. Start by observing how attention is currently spent. Notice what causes unnecessary emotional reactions. Notice what thoughts occupy the mind but have no productive outcome. Once identified, make conscious choices about where to place focus. Not every thought, feeling, or situation requires energy. Each day presents countless opportunities to practice this discernment. Repetition builds a natural ability to filter attention instinctively. Boundaries play a critical role in this practice. Setting boundaries with people, environments, and even personal habits ensures that distractions are minimized. Learning to say no to unnecessary engagements, conversations, or commitments protects mental and emotional energy. Boundaries are not restrictions. They are tools that allow focus, intentional action, and emotional stability. They reinforce the ability to direct attention toward what matters most. Understanding the consequences of misplaced attention clarifies its importance. When energy is spent on unimportant issues, the mind becomes cluttered. Stress increases, productivity drops, relationships may suffer, opportunities are missed. Decisions are compromised, emotional balance is disturbed. Recognizing the cost of unnecessary attention motivates the practice of prioritization and selective focus. Awareness of thought patterns is also essential. The mind often generates unnecessary concerns about what is trivial or outside personal control. These thoughts can spiral into emotional hooks, anxiety, or distraction. Slowing the mind, observing thoughts without judgment, and consciously redirecting focus to what matters are practical ways to regain control. Attention is a skill, and like any skill, it strengthens through deliberate practice. The process involves clear decision-making. Each situation requires evaluation. Does this matter? Will this impact long-term goals? Is this aligned with personal value? If the answer is no, attention is released. This simple framework allows mental clarity to increase naturally over time. Each decision reinforces the habit, and the mind becomes trained to focus automatically on the essential. Emotional energy is preserved when trivial matters are ignored. Frustration, anger, jealousy, or worry dissipate when attention is withheld from triggers that do not serve. Energy once wasted on meaningless reactions can now be redirected toward constructive action. Mental space opens, focus sharpens, productivity rises, emotional stability strengthens. Life becomes manageable rather than overwhelming. Ignoring what does not matter also improves relationships. Many conflicts arise because attention is given to trivial disagreements, minor slights, or inconsequential criticism. By choosing which interactions are worthy of attention, a person engages in meaningful communication, avoids unnecessary conflict, and strengthens valuable connections. Emotional reactions are reserved for situations where they make a real difference. Decision-making improves significantly when attention is directed intentionally. Clarity emerges, priorities are reinforced, actions are deliberate rather than reactive. The mind is not pulled in multiple directions by distraction. Each choice is considered carefully, and the likelihood of regret decreases. Selective attention is a cornerstone of effective action. This practice also builds resilience. Life is unpredictable, challenges will occur, opinions will clash, and unexpected events will appear. A person who has learned to discern what deserves attention does not allow minor irritations, external noise, or irrelevant stressors to dominate thoughts or behavior. Focus remains on constructive solutions and meaningful objectives. The ability to ignore the unimportant enhances stability and confidence. Self-reflection is a valuable tool in this process. Reviewing daily events, observing which situations triggered unnecessary reactions, and evaluating the effectiveness of attention choices reinforces learning. Over time, patterns emerge that guide better selection of focus in the future. Reflection transforms experience into wisdom, strengthening the ability to prioritize attention effectively. The mind is naturally drawn to drama, conflict, and emotion. Slowing this tendency requires practice and awareness. Each time attention is withheld from unimportant matters, control grows. Each deliberate choice to focus on value increases effectiveness. Habits form gradually, but with persistence, selective attention becomes instinctive. Positive reinforcements supports this practice. Recognize the benefits gained from choosing what deserves focus. Notice the reduction in stress, increasing clarity, improvement in decision-making, and stronger relationships. Each observed benefit reinforces the behavior, encouraging further commitment to the skill. Over time, the advantages compound, producing a life of greater balance, focus, and purpose. It is also important to recognize that ignoring what does not matter does not mean neglecting responsibility. Essential tasks, obligations, and meaningful relationships require attention. The skill is not avoidance of responsibility, but the ability to distinguish between what requires energy and what does not. Intentional attention ensures that resources are invested wisely, producing results aligned with goals and values. Distractions are everywhere. Social media, news, casual conversations, unnecessary arguments, and minor inconveniences constantly compete for mental space. Each offers the temptation to react. The person who chooses selectively filters the environment mentally and emotionally. Energy is conserved, focus increases, the mind remains clear, life is navigated strategically rather than reactively. Slowing the mind also supports intentional attention. Rapid, scattered thinking often leads to giving energy to unimportant issues. Mindfulness, pauses, and observation create clarity and allow the individual to identify which matters are worthy of focus. Mental filtering becomes natural, and decision-making improves. Cognitive overload is reduced. Emotional balance is strengthened. Attention is a form of personal power. Where energy and focus go, results follow. Choosing what deserves attention allows a person to act strategically, respond deliberately, and maintain composure in situations that might otherwise provoke emotional disturbance. The power to control focus is directly related to the power to control life. Daily practice is essential for mastery. Each day presents countless moments where attention must be filtered. Minor annoyances, unproductive thoughts, irrelevant conversations, and external noise all compete for mental space. Each time attention is intentionally directed or withheld, the skill strengthens. Over weeks and months, selective focus becomes automatic, and energy is consistently aligned with purpose. The process also enhances emotional intelligence. When attention is directed to meaningful issues and away from trivial triggers, the mind becomes aware of patterns, motives, and priorities. Empathy, understanding, and insight improve because focus is applied where it matters, rather than being diluted across distractions. Emotional energy is used constructively, slowing reactions to the unimportant and concentrating on what truly matters also reduces stress. Emotional turmoil arises largely from overinvestment in inconsequential matters. By deliberately ignoring minor provocations and focusing on key objectives, mental and emotional strain decreases. Life feels lighter, clearer, and more manageable. Consistency reinforces the habit. Each intentional choice builds momentum. Each time attention is reserved for meaningful matters, energy is preserved. Each moment of awareness trains the mind to respond instinctively to what matters and dismiss what does not. Over time, selective attention becomes second nature, shaping personal habits, behavior, and life outcomes. The ability to decide what deserves attention transforms personal effectiveness. Tasks are completed with focus, conversations are meaningful, decisions are deliberate, stress is reduced, opportunities are seized, emotional balance improves, energy is allocated to priorities, producing tangible results and personal growth. Ignoring what does not matter also protects mental health. Constant attention to irrelevant stimuli causes overwhelm, anxiety, and exhaustion. By filtering focus, the mind remains clear, decisions are sound, and emotions remain balanced. This skill safeguards both cognitive function and emotional stability. Ultimately, deciding what deserves attention is a lifelong practice. Every day presents new inputs, new challenges, and new opportunities to refine focus. Consistent application strengthens mental clarity, preserves energy, improves decision-making, and enhances emotional stability. Life becomes guided by intention, not reaction, and energy is directed toward growth, purpose, and meaningful achievement. When attention is managed consciously, a person gains freedom. Energy is no longer squandered on trivialities. Emotions are less reactive. Clarity increases. Actions are deliberate and aligned with priorities. Life is navigated strategically, intentionally, and effectively. Emotional mastery and personal power are strengthened. Through this practice, life transforms. Distractions fade in importance. Focus sharpens. Priorities guide decision. Reactions are deliberate. Emotional energy is optimized. Productivity and clarity improve. Relationships benefit. Stress is reduced. Personal power grows. Intentional attention becomes a natural habit that shapes a life of clarity, purpose, and achievement.
Chapter 5. Allow discomfort without trying to escape it. Discomfort is part of being human. Every person experiences it in one form or another. It shows up as physical tension, emotional unease, frustration, anxiety, or a deep sense of vulnerability. The natural instinct is to avoid it, to escape, to distract, or to numb it. Most people spend their lives trying to run from discomfort through work, entertainment, shopping, social media, or constant activity. Escaping temporarily may feel like relief, but it creates a cycle where discomfort grows stronger because it is unaddressed. True strength, resilience, and emotional mastery are built not by avoiding discomfort, but by allowing it to exist and learning how to respond consciously while it is present. The first step is recognition. Discomfort is a signal, not an enemy. It communicates that something in life demands attention, reflection, or adjustment. Physical tension may indicate stress or unmet needs. Emotional unease may indicate fear, frustration, or grief. Discomfort is information, a message from within the mind or body, and it deserves acknowledgement rather than suppression. Accepting its presence without immediate reaction is the foundation of emotional control. The second step is observation. When discomfort arises, notice it fully. Feel the tension in the body. Observe the racing thoughts. Acknowledge the tightness in the chest, the restlessness, or the urge to act immediately. Most people react instantly to discomfort because it feels intolerable. Slowing down and observing without judgment creates a space in which response is possible. Observation allows awareness to grow and provides clarity about the nature of the discomfort. Resisting discomfort often intensifies it. Trying to escape from a feeling creates a push-pull dynamic where the mind and body fight against themselves. Anxiety grows, frustration increases, and tension escalates. The more a person tries to avoid a feeling, the more energy is consumed in avoidance. Allowing discomfort to exist without running from it reduces this internal struggle.
By sitting with the feeling, the intensity diminishes naturally over time. Breathing plays a critical role in managing discomfort. When a feeling arises, the body reacts physically. Breath becomes shallow, muscles tense, and the heart rate may increase. Conscious, deep and steady breathing signals the nervous system that immediate action is not required. It creates stability, reduces tension, and increases mental clarity. Breathing provides a foundation for remaining present without fleeing from discomfort. Discomfort is not permanent, it is a momentary experience that rises and eventually passes. Understanding its transient nature allows a person to endure it without panic or hasty action. Observing discomfort and trusting that it will pass creates resilience. It trains the mind to remain calm in the presence of emotional and physical intensity. Patience becomes an essential ally in this practice. Allowing discomfort also involves accepting the full range of emotion. Fear, anger, sadness, shame, guilt, and uncertainty are all part of human experience. Denying them or attempting to escape them creates tension and misalignment. Embracing these emotions fully while choosing not to be controlled by them is the essence of emotional detachment. Emotional strength is built through endurance, observation, and thoughtful response rather than avoidance. One practical method is to label the feeling. Name the discomfort precisely. Fear, frustration, worry, irritation, impatience. Labeling diminishes the power of emotion over action. When a feeling is named, it becomes easier to separate the observer from the experience. Awareness of the label reduces compulsion, and the mind gains the ability to respond thoughtfully rather than react automatically. Discomfort is often linked to growth. Challenges, difficult conversations, unfamiliar experiences, and obstacles bring unease because they push a person beyond comfort zones. Running from discomfort prevents development. Allowing discomfort while staying present teaches tolerance, patience, and problem-solving. Growth occurs not in comfort, but in the deliberate engagement with situations that create unease. Endurance in these moments produces resilience and confidence. Self-reflection is key in this process. After experiencing discomfort, reviewing the moment and noting what was learned strengthens understanding. Observing reactions, choices, and outcomes provides insight into behavior patterns. Reflection turns difficult experiences into lessons that inform future responses and decisions. Each episode of discomfort becomes a teacher rather than a source of avoidance or fear. Discomfort can be physical as well as emotional. Pain, fatigue, illness, or challenging environments naturally create unease. Avoiding these experiences at all costs reduces resilience. Facing them with awareness and deliberate attention develops tolerance, strengthens the mind-body connection, and increases confidence in handling adversity. Physical endurance parallels emotional endurance, reinforcing the habit of remaining present through discomfort. The mind often creates narratives around discomfort, exaggerating the intensity or projecting fear into the future. Observing these thoughts without judgment is critical. Thoughts are not commands, they are interpretation. Awareness allows a person to witness the story while remaining grounded in reality. Separating perception from fact reduces the grip of discomfort and provides clarity for deliberate action. Allowing discomfort also strengthens self-discipline. Most habits of avoidance are rooted in the desire for immediate comfort. Delaying gratification, tolerating tension, and remaining present develop the capacity to endure difficulty, while maintaining focus on long-term goals. Self-discipline grows as discomfort is faced without fleeing. Decisions become aligned with intention rather than impulse. The practice requires patience and repetition. Initial attempts to remain present with discomfort may be challenging. The body may protest, the mind may resist, and the impulse to escape may feel overwhelming. Each moment of endurance reinforces new patterns. Neural pathways associated with tolerance and deliberate response are strengthened. Over time, the ability to remain steady in the face of discomfort becomes natural. Mindfulness supports this process. Bringing full attention to the present moment allows a person to experience discomfort without being consumed by it. Observing the sensations, thoughts, and impulses as they arise, and letting them pass without reacting, creates mastery over internal experience. Mindfulness is not about controlling discomfort, but about staying present with it while choosing responses consciously. Discomfort also provides insight into priorities. Observing which situations cause unease highlights areas of personal value, vulnerability, and attention. Pain, tension, or stress often indicates where growth, change, or action is required. Rather than fleeing these experiences, provide critical data that informs decisions and strengthens self-awareness. Each moment of discomfort carries wisdom for future choices. Allowing discomfort teaches resilience in relationships. Conflicts, misunderstandings, and emotional friction naturally create unease. Remaining present with these experiences without immediately withdrawing, reacting defensively, or escaping enables more thoughtful communication. Responses become measured, empathetic, and constructive. Emotional tolerance strengthens connection and reduces unnecessary tension. Control over attention amplifies the effect of tolerating discomfort. Choosing where mental energy is directed while discomfort exists prevents it from overwhelming the mind. Focused attention on solutions, learning, or constructive action diminishes the intensity of unease. The combination of presence and intentional focus transforms discomfort from a disruptive force into an opportunity for growth and mastery. Discomfort often feels uncomfortable precisely because it challenges identity, assumptions, or habitual ways of thinking. Allowing these moments to exist without avoidance enables self-examination and adaptation. The mind learns flexibility, tolerance, and critical assessment. Emotional strength develops when reactions are deliberate rather than compulsive. Personal growth occurs when challenges are experienced fully and responded to thoughtfully. Breathing, labeling, observation, and patience combine to create a framework for tolerating discomfort. Deep, conscious breaths calm the body. Naming the feeling reduces intensity. Observation increases awareness. Patience allows the mind and body to adjust naturally. Together, these practices create stability, reduce impulsivity, and enhance mental clarity. Repetition builds habit and strength. Daily life presents countless opportunities to practice. A difficult conversation, a challenging task, financial uncertainty, physical fatigue, or unexpected setbacks all create unease. Each is an opportunity to remain present, observe fully, and respond intentionally. Repeated practice trains the nervous system, mind, and emotional patterns to tolerate discomfort without panic, resistance, or avoidance. Over time, allowing discomfort strengthens confidence. Life becomes less intimidating because the mind has experienced tension and uncertainty without collapsing or fleeing. Challenges that previously felt overwhelming are now manageable. Emotional stability is reinforced. Decisions are guided by clarity rather than compulsion. Actions become deliberate, considered, and effective. Discomfort also teaches gratitude for stability and ease. Experiencing tension, unease, or difficulty heightens awareness of moments of comfort and alignment. Appreciation grows naturally when contrast is observed consciously. Gratitude emerges as part of the emotional maturity developed by tolerating difficulty. Remaining present with discomfort also enhances problem solving. Impulsive reactions often worsen situations. Pausing, observing, and tolerating unease allows the mind to assess options, consider consequences, and choose actions aligned with values and objectives. The capacity to make wise decisions increases when immediate escape is resisted. Energy is preserved when discomfort is tolerated. Running from feelings, avoiding tension, or distracting oneself expends physical, mental, and emotional resources unnecessarily. Staying present minimizes waste, directs attention intentionally, and creates energy for action that matters. This energy becomes a tool for growth, achievement, and resilience. Emotional strength grows as discomfort is faced consistently. Life's challenges, small and large, become opportunities to exercise patience, presence, and deliberate choice. Over time, a sense of mastery emerges. Confidence in handling difficulty becomes natural. Resilience becomes a trait rather than a practice. Stability becomes habitual rather than accidental. Ultimately, allowing discomfort without escape is not about passivity. It is about engagement. It is about meeting reality as it is, experiencing fully, observing carefully, and responding deliberately. This skill develops inner power, emotional resilience, and clarity. It transforms life from reaction-driven chaos to intentional living, guided by awareness, presence, and strength.
Chapter 6. Separate self-worth from others' behavior consciously. Self-worth is an internal state that should not be dictated by anyone else's behavior. Yet, most people measure themselves through approval, praise, criticism, or comparison. The words, actions, and judgments of others have an uncanny ability to trigger self-doubt, anxiety, and insecurity. Every time self-worth is tied to external validation, control over emotional life slips away. One harsh comment, a dismissive action, or perceived rejection can destabilize confidence. Separating self-worth from the behavior of others is essential for emotional freedom, resilience, and personal empowerment. This skill is not about arrogance or disregard for others. It is about establishing internal authority and protecting the mind from unnecessary turmoil. The first step is recognition. A person must observe how often emotions fluctuate based on what others say or do. Compliments may lift mood temporarily, and criticism may diminish it immediately. By noticing these patterns, awareness emerges of how fragile self-esteem becomes when it depends on external forces. Awareness is the first act of empowerment because it creates a choice point between automatic reaction and conscious response. Understanding that behavior of others reflects their own experiences, biases, and limitations is crucial. People act from their perspectives, insecurities, and values. Their reactions reveal more about them than about the person receiving the behavior. Recognizing this allows a person to avoid internalizing criticism, judgment, or neglect. Other people's choices, opinions, or attitudes are external variables over which one has no control. Internal stability comes from understanding that self-worth is independent of these factors. Conscious separation begins with internal affirmation. Daily acknowledgement of personal values, achievements, and intrinsic worth builds resilience against external fluctuation. Affirmations are not empty phrases, they are deliberate reminders of qualities, skills, and accomplishments that define the self independently of others' recognition. Each conscious repetition reinforces the principle that validation comes from within. Boundaries are an essential practical tool. Protecting energy from harmful, manipulative, or disrespectful behavior ensures that external influence is minimized. This does not mean isolating oneself from the world, but selectively engaging with interactions that are constructive or neutral. Boundaries preserve mental and emotional resources while reinforcing the principle that self-worth is not negotiable or contingent on external approval. Observation of emotional reactions provides feedback. When an individual notices irritation,
hurt, or anxiety triggered by someone's actions, it highlights the degree to which self-worth has been externally influenced. Instead of immediately reacting, pausing to reflect allows separation between the behavior and personal evaluation. This pause creates space for choice and prevents emotional hijacking. Internal dialogue must shift from dependency on external validation to self-recognition. Thoughts such as, "They must approve of me to feel good," or "their criticism defines my value," need to be replaced with conscious statements like, "My worth is inherent," or "I define my value through my choices and actions." Rewriting the narrative of self-esteem strengthens emotional independence and reduces vulnerability to the judgments of others. Practicing detachment without disengagement is vital. Emotional separation does not mean ignoring the world or being indifferent. It means remaining aware of external behaviors without allowing them to dictate internal evaluation. The mind observes but does not absorb judgment. This awareness allows interaction with people while maintaining clarity, stability, and confidence. Rejection, criticism, and conflict are inevitable in life. Everyone encounters situations where they are misunderstood, ignored, or unfairly judged. Responding effectively requires separating internal value from these external occurrences. By consciously reminding oneself that self-worth is intact, regardless of external behavior, emotional balance is preserved. Responses become deliberate, constructive, and measured rather than defensive or reactive. Self-compassion reinforces this practice. A person may still experience hurt or disappointment when treated poorly. Accepting that these feelings arise naturally without letting them define worth strengthens resilience. Discomfort is acknowledged, processed, and allowed to pass, while self-esteem remains independent. Compassion toward oneself provides the buffer against external turbulence. The practice extends to relationships. In friendships, romantic partnerships, workplaces, and family dynamics, others will inevitably act in ways that challenge or upset. Responding without internalizing negativity maintains clarity and peace. It allows for thoughtful engagement, constructive communication, and the ability to choose whether and how to respond without compromising internal confidence. Mindful observation supports the process. Noticing when self-esteem shifts due to external behavior reveals unconscious dependencies. Each observation becomes a training opportunity. Awareness alone begins the process of reprogramming automatic reactions to judgment or criticism. With repeated practice, internal validation becomes instinctive rather than contingent. Comparison is a subtle yet powerful influence on self-worth. Observing others' achievements, appearances, or successes can trigger feelings of inadequacy. Recognizing that comparison is a reflection of perspective, not a measure of value, allows detachment. Personal worth is grounded in intrinsic qualities, effort, and integrity, not relative to anyone else's performance. Feedback is only useful when it is constructive and actionable. Opinions, praise, or criticism from others are external inputs. The person chooses whether and how to use them. Accepting useful information without letting it define self-esteem separates learning from self-judgment. Feedback becomes a tool, not a measurement of intrinsic value. Daily reinforcement strengthens this skill. Reflection exercises, journaling about accomplishments, affirming values, and conscious detachment from negative influence cultivate consistent recognition of inherent worth. Over time, the mind automatically resists external attempts to diminish confidence. Emotional stability becomes habitual rather than conditional. Challenges arise when external behavior is persistent or abusive. In these cases, conscious separation may include reducing exposure, asserting boundaries, or disengaging from toxic relationships. Protecting internal self-worth is not selfish, it is necessary for mental health, clarity, and emotional resilience. Safety and peace are reinforced when attention and energy are preserved from harmful influence. Celebrating achievements, both large and small, anchors self-esteem internally. Recognition from others is secondary. Personal acknowledgement of progress and effort reinforces self-worth independent of external approval. Each acknowledgement strengthens confidence and reduces susceptibility to fluctuations caused by other people's behavior. Language shapes internal perception. Choosing words that affirm independence, value, and capability reinforces separation. Instead of thinking in terms of approval or rejection, framing experiences as neutral or instructive maintains internal balance. This shift in mental framing reduces emotional reactivity and fosters composure. The mind must practice discernment. Not all opinions, judgments, or behaviors merit attention. Some are inconsequential or biased. Consciously choosing which external inputs to engage with prevents unnecessary influence over self-esteem. Filtering attention strengthens focus, protects emotional energy, and reinforces personal authority. Self-worth is cumulative. Each time a person resists letting others' behavior define value, confidence grows. Emotional independence strengthens. The ability to act deliberately increases. Challenges feel manageable. This cumulative effect reinforces the principle that worth is internal, stable, and unshakable. Practicing gratitude for intrinsic qualities enhances separation. Acknowledging personal strength, resilience, skills, and character reinforces the foundation of self-worth. Gratitude shifts focus from external validation to internal recognition. Emotional stability grows when attention is directed toward internal resources rather than fluctuating external circumstances. The process requires patience. Long-standing habits of relying on external validation are deeply ingrained. Shifting to internal dependence takes conscious effort, reflection, and repeated practice. Each moment of choice, each observation of emotional response, and each reaffirmation of intrinsic value reinforces the new pattern. Over time, automatic reliance on external behavior diminishes. Separating self-worth from others' behavior improves decision-making. Without the pressure of approval or fear of criticism, choices are guided by values, objectives, and freedom emerges to pursue goals, communicate assertively, and navigate life with clarity. Decisions become deliberate, aligned, and independent of external influence. The skill also supports emotional anxiety, stress, insecurity, and reactive anger decrease when self-esteem is anchored internally. Emotional responses are measured and intentional rather than impulsive and influenced by external stimuli. Mental clarity increases, focus improves, and resilience is strengthened. Reflection at the end of the day solidifies learning. Observing moments when self-esteem fluctuated due to someone else's behavior, noting the response, and consciously reaffirming internal value provides reinforcement. This ongoing reflection strengthens the habit, making separation of self-worth from external behavior second nature over time. Internal authority grows as this practice develops. A person becomes reliable in their self-assessment. Confidence in judgment, abilities, and value is independent of praise, criticism, or approval. Emotional stability is reinforced, and personal power expands. Life becomes guided by internal principles rather than external pressures. Freedom emerges when self-worth is internalized. Actions, decisions, and emotional responses are chosen consciously. Stress from judgment, criticism, or comparison diminishes. Focus shifts toward growth, goals, and constructive engagement. Emotional energy is preserved and applied purposefully. The mind and heart operate with clarity, composure, and confidence. Ultimately, Separating self-worth from others' behavior is an ongoing practice. Daily observation, reflection, boundary setting, and affirmation cultivate internal stability. Over time, external events lose the ability to destabilize confidence. Emotional mastery is strengthened. Life becomes guided by intention, clarity, and self-assuredness rather than reaction, dependency, or fear of judgment. This process transforms character. Relationships improve because interactions are conscious rather than reactive. Decisions are aligned with values rather than influenced by external validation. Stress is reduced. Energy is preserved. Confidence and resilience become permanent traits. Emotional freedom is achieved, and personal power is fully realized.
Chapter 7. Stop chasing validation and start trusting yourself. Seeking validation from others is one of the most subtle traps that keeps people from living fully. From childhood, many are conditioned to look for approval, praise, or acceptance as a measure of worth. Every compliment becomes a boost, every criticism a blow, and every reaction from others becomes a gauge of identity. When life is guided by external validation, emotions are constantly reactive. Decisions are influenced by fear of judgment or desire for praise. Confidence fluctuates with approval. Energy is spent on pleasing others rather than living authentically. To step into freedom and mastery, a person must stop chasing validation and start trusting themselves. This is not a quick fix or a simple mindset shift. It is a conscious practice that develops internal confidence, clarity, and resilience. The first step is awareness. Recognize how often thoughts, feelings, and actions are influenced by the desire for approval. Notice moments when decisions are made based on how others might perceive them, rather than what feels right internally. Observe emotional highs and lows that correspond to external feedback. Awareness creates a choice point where reliance on validation can be consciously shifted to self-trust. Trusting oneself begins with self-reflection. Understanding personal values, priorities, and goals creates a foundation for decisions independent of outside opinion. When the mind knows clearly what is important, external reactions lose the ability to sway choices. A person becomes less concerned with applause, agreement, or acceptance, and more focused on alignment with internal principles. Self-reflection also highlights patterns of dependency on approval and reveals areas where trust in personal judgment is underdeveloped. Self-validation is the practice of confirming your own worth and choices internally. It involves acknowledging achievements, affirming decisions, and recognizing effort without requiring external confirmation. Self-validation is not arrogance, it is the conscious recognition that your perception, understanding, and choices are credible. Every time a person affirms themselves, confidence in their own judgment strengthens, reducing the need to seek approval from others. Releasing the habit of chasing validation requires observation of triggers. Notice when thoughts like "they will like this," or "if they don't approve, I must be wrong" arise. These signals indicate where reliance on others' opinions has taken control. Observing without immediate reaction allows a pause to redirect focus inward. Over time, these moments become opportunities to strengthen self-trust, rather than reinforce dependency on external approval. Decision-making improves as self-trust develops. When choices are guided by internal judgment rather than external expectation, decisions are deliberate, thoughtful, and aligned with values. The fear of making mistakes for the sake of others' opinions diminishes. Action becomes intentional, consistent, and empowering. Confidence grows because the person knows that alignment with self is more important than temporary approval from others. Internal validation also builds resilience. Life is unpredictable. People will disagree, criticize, or fail to recognize effort. When self-worth and decisions are rooted internally,
External judgment loses the ability to destabilize emotions. Criticism is observed without compulsion to react. Praise is appreciated, but not required to feel confident. The mind and heart maintain stability regardless of external feedback. Practical exercises strengthen trust in oneself. Start by consciously making small decisions without seeking advice or approval. Recognize the results of these decisions, acknowledge competence, and reflect on the process. Gradually, more significant choices can be made independently, reinforcing the habit of self-trust. Each successful independent decision builds momentum, proving internally that guidance is reliable and approval unnecessary. Awareness of emotional dependence on validation is crucial. Notice moments when anxiety, excitement, or frustration arises due to others' opinions. Track how attention and energy shift towards seeking agreement or recognition. Observing these responses creates insight into the frequency and intensity of dependence. Awareness is the first step in detaching emotional well-being from external validation. Boundaries support the development of self-trust. Limiting interactions with those who demand conformity, excessive approval, or control ensures that internal judgment is exercised rather than overridden. Boundaries are tools to preserve energy and reinforce the practice of independent thinking. They allow focus on growth, personal goals, and self-alignment without constant interference from outside pressures. Trusting yourself also requires accepting imperfection. Mistakes are part of learning and growth. External validation often comes with conditional approval, rewarding success and punishing failure. Internal trust separates competence from perfection. It allows a person to learn from errors without diminishing confidence. The mind understands that mistakes are data points, not determinants of worth. This understanding liberates action from fear and builds courage. Reflection strengthens trust in self. After completing tasks, making decisions, or navigating challenges, reviewing the process and acknowledging personal insight reinforces credibility in one's own judgment. Reflection emphasizes lessons learned, identifies strength, and highlights independent capability. Over time, this practice cements confidence and reduces reliance on external confirmation. Patience is essential. Chasing validation is often a lifetime habit. Shifting dependence inward requires repeated practice, persistence, and conscious awareness. Each day offers countless opportunities to practice self-trust. Deciding what to eat, how to spend time, how to communicate, and how to respond to challenges. Each small act of independent decision-making reinforces the internal foundation. Emotional reactions become more balanced as self-trust grows. Anxiety, anger, and frustration triggered by criticism or approval-seeking diminish. Responses become deliberate rather than compulsive. Energy is preserved and directed toward meaningful action rather than managing perception. Emotional freedom grows alongside confidence in one's own judgment. Trusting oneself also enhances relationships. People who rely less on external validation communicate more authentically. Their presence is less reactive and more grounded. Relationships shift from being transactional, based on approval, to being genuine and mutually respectful. Others respond naturally to authenticity rather than approval-seeking behavior. Comparison loses power when self-trust is developed. Observing others' success, recognition, or achievement no longer triggers self-doubt because worth and competence are evaluated internally. Focus shifts from what others think to what is aligned with personal values, goals, and growth. Confidence becomes stable, not relative. Challenges are inevitable, but internal trust enables proactive responses. Criticism, rejection, and misunderstanding are observed objectively. Decisions are adjusted if necessary, but emotional stability remains intact. Life becomes navigable without the constant need for reassurance or validation. Confidence is internal, consistent, and reliable. Energy conservation is another benefit. Seeking approval consumes time, attention, and emotional bandwidth. Chasing validation creates stress, distraction, and fatigue. By trusting oneself, energy is preserved and invested in constructive action, personal growth, and achievement rather than attempting to control external perception. Daily reinforcement is essential. Remind yourself of past successes, acknowledge effort, and reflect on lessons learned without requiring outside confirmation. Each reminder strengthens the internal validation mechanism, gradually diminishing the need for approval. Over weeks and months, the mind becomes trained to rely on self-assessment as the primary measure of worth and competence. Language reinforces self-trust. Internal dialogue should emphasize capability, judgment, and autonomy. Replace thoughts such as "if they don't like it, I am wrong," with "I trust my decisions and choices." Words influence perception. Reinforcing trust through language strengthens internal belief systems and reduces external dependence. Observation of internal states is critical. Notice when insecurity, doubt, or hesitation arises. Identify if the source is internal assessment or external expectation. Awareness allows conscious redirection toward trust and self-alignment. Mindfulness of internal states builds resilience, confidence, and emotional independence. The practice also involves embracing uncertainty. Life presents situations without clear guidance or feedback. Trusting oneself in these moments ensures calm, deliberate action. Dependence on external opinion in uncertain conditions produces hesitation, fear, and reactive behavior. Internal trust allows clarity and effective decision-making under ambiguity. Consistency builds mastery. Each conscious decision made without seeking validation reinforces the pattern. Each observed reduction in reactivity to others' opinions strengthens independence. Habits of self-trust replace automatic reliance on approval. Emotional stability and confidence become automatic rather than conditional. Trusting oneself is not about rejecting feedback entirely. Constructive guidance or factual input can inform decisions. The key is filtering input without allowing it to define worth or determine action automatically. Decisions remain guided by internal principles, values, and insight rather than approval-seeking behavior. The long-term effect transforms character. Independence, confidence, and stability become habitual. Life becomes purposeful and intentional. Emotional reactions are measured, deliberate, and aligned with internal judgment. The mind operates with clarity, autonomy, and authority rather than dependency on external validation. Over time, the practice creates freedom. Choices, emotions, and actions are directed consciously. Energy is preserved, self-assurance is stable. Anxiety caused by others' opinions decreases. Life is navigated intentionally, and personal growth accelerates because internal trust replaces the need for external reassurance. Ultimately, stopping the chase for validation is a transformative process. Awareness, reflection, self-affirmation, deliberate decision-making, and appropriate practice build unwavering confidence. Emotional stability strengthens, relationships improve, clarity increases. Freedom from dependency on others creates the foundation for consistent growth, resilience, and personal power. Self-trust is the ultimate source of confidence. It allows a person to act with integrity, respond deliberately, and navigate life without being controlled by approval, judgment, or criticism. Each moment of conscious self-trust strengthens the foundation of personal authority, emotional mastery, and freedom. Life becomes guided by choice rather than reaction, and power is reclaimed from the need for external validation.
Chapter 8. Practice emotional distance while staying mentally present. Emotional life can be overwhelming when feelings dominate reactions. Most people allow emotions to dictate choices, conversations and actions, often without awareness. Anger, frustration, excitement, fear, or sadness can become so intense that they cloud judgment and disrupt focus. Living this way creates stress, confusion, and reactive behavior. Yet, emotions are an essential part of human experience. They provide information, signals, and insight into priorities, values, and desires. The key is learning to practice emotional distance while remaining mentally present. This is not about suppressing emotions or becoming indifferent. It is about observing, processing, and engaging consciously without being controlled by internal impulses. Emotional distance allows clarity, intentionality, and stability, while mental presence ensures full engagement in life, relationships, and decisions. The first step is awareness. Observing emotional responses as they arise helps identify patterns and triggers. Notice how the body reacts: tension in the shoulders, a quickened heartbeat, shallow breathing, or tightness in the chest. Observe mental reactions, racing thoughts, impulsive judgments, or internal dialogue that pushes toward immediate reaction. Awareness alone creates the opportunity to respond thoughtfully instead of automatically reacting. Recognizing the difference between feeling an emotion and acting on it is the foundation of emotional distance. Next is labeling the emotion, naming the feeling: anger, fear, disappointment, excitement, or worry reduces its intensity and separates the observer from the experience. Labeling transforms the emotion from an overwhelming force into manageable information. The mind begins to see the emotion as data rather than a command. This shift allows decision-making to remain deliberate and measured. Each labeling practice strengthens the skill of separating internal experience from external action. Breathing is a practical tool to maintain distance while staying present. Deep, steady breaths anchor the body and nervous system. Breath slows reactive impulses, stabilizes emotional energy, and creates space for observation. Focusing on breathing during intense moments allows presence in the situation without being pulled into immediate reaction. The physical act of breathing acts as a bridge between feeling and responding consciously. Observation without judgment is critical. Emotions should be noticed without labeling them as good or bad. Tension, sadness, or anger are not flaws, they are signals. Judging them increases intensity and attachment. Instead, acknowledge the emotion, note its presence, and allow it to exist without collapsing under its weight. Emotional distance grows when the mind treats feelings as neutral data rather than threats or mandates. Mental presence involves fully engaging in the current moment. While observing emotions, the mind can still assess reality, context, and priorities. Decisions are made based on reason and awareness, not on immediate emotional impulse. Presence ensures active participation in life, conversation, and decision-making while maintaining clarity and composure. Emotional energy is not wasted on reaction, but directed toward deliberate action. Boundaries reinforce emotional oasis. Protecting oneself from excessive emotional contamination through toxic interactions, high conflict situations, or unnecessary drama preserves stability. Boundaries are not about avoidance, but about maintaining capacity to engage effectively and thoughtfully. They ensure mental and emotional space is available to observe, respond, and act with intention. Self-reflection deepens skill. After situations that trigger strong emotions, reviewing responses helps identify patterns, successes, and areas for improvement. Did the emotion dictate action unnecessarily? Was presence maintained? Did labeling and breathing help? Reflection transforms experience into insight, turning reactive tendencies into deliberate habits of emotional intelligence.
Tolerance of discomfort supports emotional distance. Emotions, particularly strong ones, create a sense of urgency or discomfort. Resisting or escaping these feelings strengthens their grip. Allowing emotions to exist while remaining present teaches endurance, reduces panic, and cultivates confidence. Over time, tolerance becomes instinctive, and emotional intensity loses the ability to dictate behavior. Perspective is a powerful tool. Observing the situation objectively, considering broader context, and recognizing temporary nature of emotions reduces attachment to immediate reaction. Perspective prevents escalation, miscommunication, and impulsive choices. Emotional distance grows as mental framing shifts from immediate impact to long-term understanding and priorities. Intentional focus amplifies control. Direct attention to constructive thoughts, solutions, or productive responses, rather than dwelling on triggers, irritation, or fear. Attention is energy. By choosing where focus goes, the mind maintains stability, strengthens presence, and ensures emotions inform rather than dominate decisions. Practicing empathy strengthens balance between distance and presence. Observing emotions within oneself while understanding the emotional state of others allows measured responses. Emotional distance does not mean detachment from humanity. It allows compassionate engagement without being consumed by the feelings of others. Relationships improve because responses are thoughtful, calm, and effective rather than reactive or defensive. Time and space support emotional distance. Pausing before responding to challenging situations or difficult conversations allows clarity. Immediate reaction often amplifies emotional intensity. Deliberate pauses, even brief, reduce impulsivity, improve judgment, and reinforce presence. Over time, this becomes a habitual method of managing emotional engagement. Reframing emotional events helps maintain balance. Interpreting a frustrating situation as information rather than an attack reduces reactivity. Viewing discomfort as an opportunity to practice presence reinforces control. The mind begins to recognize emotions as signals for attention, learning, or action, rather than commands to react immediately. Consistency builds mastery. Emotional distance requires repeated practice. Each day provides countless opportunities: a tense conversation, a minor disappointment, a sudden stressor, or a challenging decision. Each moment, observed and processed without reaction, reinforces stability and presence. Gradually, emotional detachment becomes automatic, while engagement remains full. Energy conservation is a key benefit. Reacting to every emotional impulse drains focus, productivity, and resilience. Maintaining distance preserves energy, allowing action to be directed toward meaningful tasks and effective decisions. Mental presence ensures the energy is applied intentionally rather than dissipated in unnecessary emotional turbulence. Mindful observation extends beyond self. Noticing emotional triggers in interactions with others allows one to respond with awareness rather than defensiveness. Observing tension, impatience, or frustration without internalizing it prevents escalation and maintains calm. Presence ensures thoughtful engagement rather than reactive conflict. Language reinforces practice. Internal dialogue such as, "I notice this feeling and can respond thoughtfully," strengthens the habit. Words used in self-reflection influence perception and behavior. Conscious reinforcement through language builds automaticity in observing emotions without being controlled by them. Emotional distance increases adaptability. Life is unpredictable. People behave unexpectedly, circumstances change, and plans fail. By maintaining stability while being present, a person can navigate complexity without emotional derailment. Decisions are aligned with priorities, solutions are creative, and responses remain deliberate. Adaptability grows naturally through consistent practice. Tolerance of ambiguity strengthens as emotional distance develops. Not every situation has a clear resolution or immediate solution. Remaining present while observing internal and external dynamics allows thoughtful analysis. Decisions are based on insight rather than emotional pressure. Uncertainty is met with composure rather than panic. Observation of habitual reactions is essential. Over time, patterns emerge, specific triggers, common intensities, and typical response tendencies. Noticing these allows proactive adjustment, improved management, and deeper mastery of emotional life. Emotional distance becomes a deliberate, practiced skill rather than an accidental habit. Confidence emerges naturally when emotions no longer dominate choices. Clarity, composure, and effectiveness increase. Each instance of observing, labeling, and responding thoughtfully reinforces belief in one's capacity to navigate life without being hijacked by emotion. Confidence is grounded, stable, and internal. Self-compassion complements practice. Observing moments where emotion nearly overtakes response should not create shame. Every person experiences intense feelings. Acknowledging the effort to remain present, reflecting on growth, and reinforcing skill strengthens resilience. Compassion transforms practice from discipline into self-empowerment. Integration of these principles transforms daily life. Decision-making becomes deliberate. Relationships are more authentic. Stress diminishes. Emotional energy is preserved. Productivity increases. Presence allows full engagement with reality without surrendering to emotional turbulence. Life becomes navigable, intentional, and purposeful. Ultimately, practicing emotional distance while staying mentally present is an ongoing, deliberate effort. Awareness, labeling, breathing, observation, patience, perspective, and reflection create mastery. Emotional impulses inform without dominating. Mental presence allows active engagement in life, work, and relationships. Energy is preserved, clarity is enhanced, and resilience strengthened. Freedom emerges from the ability to feel fully while acting deliberately. Emotional intelligence becomes habitual. Decisions are aligned with values. Life is experienced fully without being controlled by reactive impulses. Presence becomes the foundation of strength, insight, and deliberate action.
Chapter 9. Release past emotional patterns that shape reactions. The past has a way of following people, if they allow it to. Experiences, old wounds, unresolved conflicts, and repeated patterns of behavior shape how emotions emerge and how reactions occur. Many people carry invisible weight from years, sometimes decades, of conditioning that influences their thoughts, decisions, and feelings. These emotional patterns can trigger anger, anxiety, frustration, fear, or sadness automatically, even in situations that have nothing to do with the original cause. The mind interprets the present through the lens of past experience, and the body reacts as though old threats are current. This is not a reflection of weakness, it is a result of habitual neural pathways. Freedom comes when a person consciously releases these past emotional patterns and rewires their responses. It is a deliberate, often challenging process, but it is the foundation of emotional mastery and personal growth. The first step is awareness, recognizing that reactions are often shaped by past experiences, allows one to separate present reality from old triggers. Noticing recurring emotional responses, patterns of overreaction, or automatic judgments reveals the extent to which the past exerts influence. Awareness is empowering because it creates a choice: respond based on the present moment, or be controlled by previous conditioning. Observation without judgment is key. The purpose is not self-blame, but understanding. Next is acknowledgement. Fully facing the past and its influence on present behavior is essential. Many avoid this step because it is uncomfortable, painful, or brings up shame. However, acknowledging old wounds, mistakes, or conditioning is the gateway to freedom. The mind and body recognize that patterns exist, and this recognition allows intentional intervention. Acknowledgement validates experience and transforms avoidance into opportunity. Understanding the root of emotional patterns provides clarity. Reflecting on why certain reactions occur helps identify triggers, beliefs, and associations developed over time. Perhaps anger arises in specific situations due to past criticism. Anxiety may emerge due to early experiences of instability or neglect. Frustration may appear in conflict because of unresolved disappointment. Understanding these roots empowers a person to distinguish between automatic reactions and deliberate responses. Releasing old emotional patterns requires conscious intervention. Habits that have existed for years cannot simply be wished away. They must be observed, challenged, and replaced with new approaches. This is similar to training a muscle. Repetition, consistency, and focus strengthen the new behavior. When an old reaction surfaces, pausing to breathe, reflect, and respond deliberately weakens the automatic pattern. Over time, neural pathways associated with intentional response strengthen while habitual patterns diminish. Acceptance is critical. Past experiences cannot be changed, but their grip on present emotional life can be released. Acceptance does not mean condoning harm or forgetting experiences. It means acknowledging what occurred, understanding its influence, and choosing to no longer allow it to dictate reactions. Acceptance transforms resentment, regret, or pain into insight and opportunity. Emotional processing is necessary. Suppressing old pain keeps patterns alive beneath the surface. Expressing, writing, or reflecting on these emotions allows the nervous system to release tension and integrate experience, whether through journaling, therapy, conversation, or personal reflection. Processing strengthens the mind's ability to respond without being hijacked by past conditioning. Mindfulness supports this practice, observing emotions in real time, noticing when old triggers emerge, and pausing before reacting creates the space necessary to release patterns. Mindfulness allows the present moment to guide responses instead of reflexive repetition of the past. Each pause reinforces the ability to act consciously rather than be swept into habitual reaction. Forgiveness plays a role in liberation. Holding on to resentment, anger, or bitterness toward people, circumstances, or oneself reinforces past patterns. Forgiveness in this context is not about excusing behavior, but releasing the emotional hold it has on present responses. Forgiveness frees attention and energy for constructive engagement in life. Emotional patterns lose power when old grievances are acknowledged and consciously let go. Reframing experiences helps solidify release. Viewing past events as lessons, sources of insight, or opportunities for growth changes their emotional impact. Instead of being triggers for frustration or fear, past experiences become guides for self-awareness, resilience, and informed decision-making. Reframing reduces emotional charge and allows the mind to respond to the present with clarity. Practice in daily life is essential. Old patterns may resurface in moments of stress, fatigue, or challenge. Each time, conscious choice to respond differently strengthens new pathways. Consistent repetition transforms new responses into habit. Emotional freedom is built incrementally, moment by moment, choice by choice. Self-compassion reinforces the process. Emotional patterns from the past often carry shame, guilt, or self-criticism. Treating oneself kindly, acknowledging effort, and allowing for mistakes prevents reinforcement of negative cycles.
Compassion ensures that the release of old patterns is sustainable and empowering rather than punishing. Reflection deepens mastery. Observing how reactions have changed over time, noting improvements and identifying lingering patterns provides insight into growth. Reflection helps maintain awareness, strengthens intention, and prevents regression into old habits. It also highlights progress, which motivates continued practice and reinforces emotional resilience. Boundaries support the release of past patterns. Surrounding oneself with environments, people and situations that reinforce intentional responses reduces the likelihood of triggering old habits. Boundaries are not avoidance, they are a practical method to maintain emotional stability while practicing new patterns. They provide a protective framework in which growth and conscious response can flourish. Energy is preserved when old patterns are released. Constant reactivity to past conditioning consumes mental, emotional, and physical resources. Letting go frees energy for constructive action, creativity, and focus on what truly matters. Energy previously tied to reactive emotion is redirected toward intentional living and effective problem solving. Accountability strengthens transformation. Sharing goals, progress, and challenges with trusted individuals creates support and reinforces commitment to change. Accountability helps maintain awareness, provides perspective, and encourages consistent practice. Internal support complements internal work, ensuring emotional patterns are addressed effectively. A visualization can aid in rewiring responses. Imagining oneself responding calmly, thoughtfully, and intentionally in situations that previously triggered old reactions prepares the mind for actual performance. Visualization strengthens neural pathways associated with deliberate response, making new behavior more accessible under real-world pressure. Gratitude shifts perspective, recognizing growth, learning, and strength gained from past experiences reframes them as assets rather than liability. Gratitude reduces emotional charge, reinforces positive reinterpretation, and supports sustainable release of old patterns. Focusing on progress rather than residual pain strengthens resilience and self-confidence. Releasing patterns also improves relationships. When reactions are no longer driven by past conditioning, interactions become more conscious, empathetic, and constructive. Communication improves. Conflicts are managed thoughtfully. Emotional responses are measured rather than automatic. Relationships deepen because presence and intentionality replace reactivity. Decision-making benefits immensely. When past emotional patterns are released, choices are guided by current reality, values, and objectives, rather than reflexive reaction. Decision-making becomes deliberate, clear, and aligned with goals. The mind operates with awareness and intention, rather than old automatic responses. Tolerance of uncertainty strengthens. Past patterns often amplify fear of the unknown or anticipation of negative outcomes. Releasing these patterns allows the mind to respond flexibly to new situations. Calm, thoughtful assessment replaces anxiety-driven reaction. Emotional freedom expands as the mind becomes less influenced by history and more guided by the present. Consistency is crucial. Emotional patterns are deeply ingrained and cannot be eliminated in a single effort. Daily observation, conscious response, reflection, and practice reinforce new pathways. Each situation approached differently from past behavior strengthens the habit of intentional response and diminishes the automatic pull of prior conditioning. Internal authority develops through this process. Confidence in handling emotions, challenges, and relationships grows because responses are rooted in awareness and choice, rather than compulsion. Self-trust is reinforced. Emotional stability becomes reliable. The mind and heart operate from deliberate intention rather than reactive habit. Freedom is the ultimate outcome. Releasing past emotional patterns allows a person to live fully in the present. Energy is preserved. Emotional responses are measured and intentional. Clarity increases. Life is navigated with autonomy and purpose. Old conditioning no longer dictates choices, reactions, or emotional state. Each moment becomes an opportunity to act consciously, informed by insight rather than dictated by history. Over time, mastery emerges. Automatic reactions are replaced with deliberate responses. Emotional patterns no longer hold control. Awareness, reflection, mindfulness, and practice consolidate freedom. Life becomes navigable with confidence, resilience, and presence. Emotional energy is directed toward growth, achievement, and meaningful engagement. Character is strengthened. Decisions are aligned with values, and relationships thrive. Ultimately, releasing past emotional patterns is not a one-time effort. It is an ongoing commitment to observation, reflection, and conscious action. Each experience, reaction, and decision reinforces new neural pathways. Emotional freedom, clarity, and stability grow over time. Life becomes intentionally directed. Emotional mastery is realized. Self-trust is reinforced. The mind and heart operate in alignment, and life is experienced fully, without the shadow of past patterns controlling behavior.
Chapter 10. Commit to responding intentionally instead of emotionally. Responding to life emotionally is the default for most people. A comment triggers irritation, a delay sparks frustration, a disagreement fuels defensiveness. Emotions sweep through the mind and body, and without conscious choice, reactions follow. Over time, these automatic responses create patterns that influence relationships, decisions, and personal growth. Responding emotionally is natural, but it limits clarity, control, and effectiveness. The difference between living reactively and living intentionally lies in commitment. The commitment to pause, observe, and choose responses deliberately. This is not easy. It requires awareness, practice, and discipline. Yet it is the cornerstone of emotional mastery, resilience, and personal power. The first step is awareness. Every interaction, every situation, and every thought provides an opportunity to notice emotional impulses. Observe the moment when irritation, anxiety, or excitement arises. Note how these emotions affect thoughts, decisions, and actions. Awareness is the foundation because it creates a choice point: act reflexively or act intentionally. Without awareness, emotional patterns continue unconsciously and growth is limited. Next is the pause. A brief moment between stimulus and response allows the mind to regain clarity. This pause does not have to be long. Even a few seconds can create enough space to process emotion. During the pause, breathe, notice physical sensations, and recognize emotional signals. This simple act interrupts automatic reaction and opens the door for deliberate response. Repetition of this pause strengthens habit and trains the mind to respond with awareness rather than impulse. Understanding the difference between emotion and action is essential. Feeling anger, fear, or frustration does not mandate immediate reaction. Emotions provide information about needs, boundaries, or values, but they are not directives. Observing emotion without allowing it to dictate action builds control, calm, and confidence. The mind recognizes that it can feel fully while still choosing behavior consciously. Intentional responses require clarity of values. Knowing what is important, what matters most, and what aligns with personal goals guides choices. Decisions based on principle rather than emotion produce consistent, constructive outcomes. When values drive action, emotional turbulence loses the ability to derail judgment or behavior. The foundation of intentional response is a clear understanding of priorities and principles. Reflection strengthens intentionality. After emotionally charged events, reviewing reactions helps identify where impulses dominated and where conscious choice prevailed. This reflection is not about self-criticism, it is about insight and improvement. Each instance of analysis reinforces awareness and provides guidance for future situations. Reflection turns experience into learning and action into mastery. Practical strategies support the commitment to respond intentionally. Breathing, grounding, mental labeling of emotions, and structured reflection provide tools to manage impulses. These techniques stabilize the mind, reduce reactivity, and create capacity for deliberate response. Regular practice of these strategies turns intentional response into a natural habit. Boundaries enhance insistence. Protecting time, energy, and focus ensures that external pressures or stressful interactions do not overwhelm the capacity for deliberate action. Boundaries are not avoidance, but a practical framework that allows responses to be measured and aligned with intention rather than emotional compulsion. Acceptance of emotional discomfort is necessary. Strong emotions can be uncomfortable, but attempting to suppress or escape them often strengthens their influence. Observing and allowing emotions while consciously choosing response strengthens resilience. Emotional energy is transformed from reaction into deliberate action. Discomfort becomes a teacher rather than a tyrant. Language influences internal processes. Internal dialogue shapes perception, judgment, and response. Phrases like "I notice this feeling" and "will act with clarity" reinforce intentional action. Repetition of empowering self-talk strengthens neural pathways for conscious response and diminishes automatic emotional reactivity. Self-compassion is crucial. Committing to intentional response does not mean perfection. Moments of emotional reaction will occur. Acknowledging mistakes without judgment and recommitting to conscious action builds trust in oneself. Compassion strengthens resilience, supports consistency, and transforms setbacks into opportunities for growth. Awareness of triggers deepens mastery. Each person has situations, people, or events that provoke strong emotional reactions. Identifying these triggers allows proactive preparation, mental rehearsal, and strategy for responding intentionally. Anticipation reduces impulsivity and enhances confidence, ensuring reactions align with purpose rather than emotion. Energy management is integral. Emotional reactions consume mental and physical resources, often depleting focus, patience, and motivation. Responding intentionally preserves energy, directing it toward constructive outcomes. Life becomes navigable without being drained by unmoderated emotional turbulence. Decision-making improves significantly. When emotional impulses are filtered through awareness and values, choices become deliberate, constructive, and aligned with objectives. Consequences are considered, alternatives evaluated, and actions measured. Decisions reflect judgment rather than reaction, producing better results in relationships, work, and personal growth. Consistency transforms practice into habit. The brain is trained through repetition. Each time a pause is taken, awareness applied, and response chosen deliberately, neural pathways are strengthened. Over time, automatic reaction diminishes, and intentional response becomes instinctive. The mind becomes a tool of conscious choice rather than a slave to emotional impulse. Empathy and perspective enhance the practice. Understanding the emotions, motivations, and context of others reduces reactive responses. Awareness of the bigger picture allows calm, rational, and measured interaction, even in emotionally charged circumstances. Relationships improve because responses are guided by insight
rather than immediate emotional impulse. Visualization accelerates mastery, mentally rehearsing scenarios, imagining calm responses, and practicing deliberate action prepares the mind for real-life application. Visualization strengthens confidence and reinforces patterns of intentional behavior. The brain begins to recognize deliberate response as natural, reducing the power of old reactive habits. Long-term benefits are profound. Emotional stability increases, stress decreases, and relationships deepen. Clarity in communication improves, conflicts are managed thoughtfully, and personal energy is preserved. Life becomes navigable with confidence and presence. Emotional mastery expands, allowing consistent progress toward personal goals. Patience and persistence are essential. Change does not occur overnight. Automatic emotional responses are deeply ingrained. Daily practice, reflection, and recommitment gradually replace reactive tendencies with deliberate response. Each instance of conscious choice strengthens capability, creating momentum for permanent transformation. Integration of intentional response into daily life is transformative. Work, personal relationships, social interactions, and challenges are approached with clarity, composure, and purpose. Reactions become measured, constructive, and aligned with personal value. Emotional turbulence no longer dictates behavior, and decision-making is rooted in awareness and principle. Self-trust grows as intentional response becomes habitual. Confidence in judgment, behavior, and resilience strengthens because outcomes are consistently aligned with choice rather than reaction. Trust in oneself becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. Deliberate response produces positive outcomes, which reinforces confidence and mastery over emotion. Accountability enhances progress. Sharing commitment, strategies, and outcomes with trusted individuals provides reinforcement, perspective, and support. Accountability encourages reflection, evaluation, and sustained practice, ensuring that intentional response becomes an enduring skill rather than a temporary effort. Reflection at the end of each day consolidates learning, reviewing situations, recognizing moments of emotional reaction versus intentional response, and reaffirming commitment strengthens skill. Reflection converts experience into insight and prepares the mind for future application. Commitment to intentional response transforms character. Patience, calm, resilience, and clarity become defining traits. The mind operates with authority, decision-making aligns with principles, and life is experienced intentionally rather than reactively. Emotional mastery becomes habitual, empowering, and sustainable. Ultimately, committing to responding intentionally instead of emotionally is a deliberate choice. Awareness, pause, reflection, values alignment, practice, and self-compassion create mastery. Emotional impulses inform rather than dictate. Actions are chosen with clarity, purpose, and confidence. Life becomes navigable, productive, and fulfilling. Relationships flourish. Energy is preserved. Growth accelerates. The mind and heart operate with balance, authority, and intentionality. Emotional reactions no longer control life. Choice, deliberate action, and internal guidance define every moment. Freedom, resilience, and mastery are the results of this commitment. Each situation provides an opportunity to practice, strengthen, and solidify the habit of intentional response. Over time, deliberate action replaces reactive behavior, and life becomes fully guided by awareness, values, and conscious choice. Commitment to intentional response is the ultimate expression of self-mastery. It transforms reactions into opportunities, challenges into lessons, and emotions into guides rather than controllers. Life becomes navigable with clarity, presence, and purpose. Emotional strength becomes permanent, grounded, and unshakable. The mind and heart operate in alignment, and every action reflects deliberate intention.